The amount of fine winemakers in Napa is pretty aggressive. And so to be able to start something new or try something innovative is very far and few between, I think. And one of the things with beer is there's always new things coming out, new abilities, new equipment, and new processes. And one of the things in Vallejo is we were new. So in a new era, a new town, a new style of fermentation, it really led itself to kind of the creativity that I felt was a bit lacking in winemaking. Kent and I, we've known each other for about, what, 15, 18 years?
It might be 20.
We met on a crush pad up in Napa. I was assistant winemaker. Kent has his small wine brand, and I used to oversee that. So we've been fast friends for a while in fermentation. And it seemed like we were always finishing the day out with a good beer, so.
My wife and I actually bought one of the very first officers' quarters on Mare Island. And I had my little wine project at the time, and I kept saying, these buildings are perfect. They have giant cranes, they have great drainage, you've got a view of the water, it's very industrial. But when you think about wine, you think about pastoral settings with lots of vines and people in penny loafers. And so this was just sort of dying to have a brewery come to town. I had written this business plan for a brewery, but I didn't really have the brewing expertise to pull it all off. And so when Ryan said, hey, I've been working over at Lagunitas, I was like, it's time for us to pull that thing down, dust it off, and take a look, and a partnership was formed. When we first started this, we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and we actually convinced some friends of ours to give us the keys to their brewery, and every Wednesday, we'd go over there and we'd brew. And then this fantastic little spot opened up right at the ferry building in Vallejo, and that's where we decided we're gonna put a little tap room in here and sell this beer that we're making. And it was very humble origins. I think our aspirations were very low at the time. Our whole business plan was Ryan was gonna make a little bit of beer, stand behind.
Just pouring pints,
and we were gonna have a hot dog dispenser, and that was our goal.
I think we also added a popcorn machine in that business model. I mean, we were really reaching for the stars around here. It was really the ferry tap room that kind of got us started as a brand. I mean, that location is right on the waterfront. All you're seeing is Mare Island. The cranes, the gantries, the old brick buildings. It's actually such a fantastic location to tell the history of Mare Island.
We've got full-blown kitchen. We can seat a couple hundred people. We've got upper deck seating. We've got outside seating. We've got 4 screens. We do live music on Saturdays. The Ferry Tap Room's really become a watering hole for Vallejo. And so it has just grown exponentially from there really fast. I mean, we now have this coal shed brewery that we're sitting in right here. The coal sheds stored coal for the steamships in the very late 1800s, early 1900s. They just kind of were sitting here vacant at the time. So we took one over and we ended up restoring this whole thing, which was a serious labor of love. It took us 3 years start to finish.
It was really a pretty dark place, but just the sexiness of it, the cool aspect, it just fit the niche for us.
We've certainly put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this whole thing, but the community has invested themselves in it as well. It was a chance to revive the pride that people had in Mare Island, and that's been really, really gratifying. In its heyday, 50,000 people worked on Mare Island, and Mare Island was the premier West Coast naval base for 146 years.
Mare Island Naval Shipyard was the first shipyard established on the Pacific Coast back in 1854. It was during the gold rush. It's a lot of story to tell.
Every time we get a chance to name a beer, it's great because Ryan and I, we think alike on a lot of things, but Ryan's really focused on the brewing side of things. I get the fun of doing the marketing. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that every name we have ties back to the Mare Island history in some way and helps us tell the story of this incredible island.
A lot of breweries you go to and they tell you about the beers and what the style of the beers. And what we do is we tell you the story behind the names of all of those beers. When we decided to make craft beer, we really did come at it from a winemaker's angle. We wanted one that you could actually sit down and enjoy with a meal. And so being in wine, understanding how important the palate is, really goes into how we design and build our recipes. And we wanted that in the same thing in our craft beers. As winemakers, we're really familiar with the wine club, and coming from the wine world, we really wanted to bring that experience to our beer customers.
Well, if you were a civilian working on the island, you were maybe not so affectionately referred to as a yardbird. And we're like, that's perfect. We're gonna call our beer club members the Yardbirds. And the Yardbirds are rabid, fantastic, super enthusiastic fans. Ryan and I will dream up some recipes, And we do a case of beer, once in the spring, once in the fall.
But really what it comes down to is the parties. We've got music, food, and the beer releases as well. It's pretty surreal to be sitting here in our own coal shed brewery with a 15-barrel system where we have full control of our production all the way from the grain in to the cans out and kegs out the door.
You know, when you go into a partnership and you had a friendship to begin with, you worry about the friendship getting ruined. And if nothing else, it has strengthened our friendship in a huge way. And it's been a phenomenal partnership.
And even if it does come to a point of a low hurdle, a couple beers later, we're definitely on the same page.
A lot of that history is going away, and we try to capture it, put it into bottle, put it into can, and get it out there for people to really understand what took place on this historic island. Where they used to do battleships, now we do beer. We should invite everybody up, don't you think?
Absolutely.
We're at the northern reaches of the San Francisco Bay. We're about a half hour from Napa, a half hour from Marin, a half hour from Berkeley. We're right here on the water. It's a great place to soak up some history and drink yourself a beer.
Become a yard bird in the meantime.
We'd love it.
That was a commercial.
Did we get there? Is that everything?
I doubt it.
Time to go get a beer.
Time to get a beer. We should have had a beer a while ago.